You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week our team discusses news and events from this past week as well as previewing the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast streaming platforms like iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Speaker, and Podbay. And don't forget, it's also available through our partners at thechairshot.com. My name is Miranda Morales. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, and I'm going to bring in the rest of the team. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going fantastic. How's it going for you, Miranda?
It is going well. What a intricate web we weave. When I think about this week's show,
yes,
everything we're going to be talking about is interconnected. So it's kind of crazy. We'll get to it in a second, but we can't do that without the third member of this team, and that's who?
Who?
It's the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who.
Hey, how we doing?
Doing well.
Right.
I mean, gosh, I'm really, really excited to talk about this week's show. I know I always say that going into it, but literally everything is connected. Like the world of Lucha Libre has really shown its intricacies. This whole web of people and promotions and titles are all came together, collided in just this week.
Yeah, and
it's insane.
You're part of it, so we're going to start there.
Yes, yeah. That is because I will be ring announcing for Future Stars of Wrestling FSW's Psycho de Mayo this Saturday, May 8th, up in Las Vegas, Nevada. That is going to be featuring two men we actually saw last weekend at Rey de Reyes, and they've actually been fighting throughout the United States and in Mexico. It circles back around to the U.S. That is Psycho Clown is going to be facing Sam Adonis in a match for Future Stars of Wrestling. And so I saw what they did at Palais Pro out in Texas. I saw what they did at Rey de Reyes, and I can only imagine what they're going to be doing in Las Vegas this Saturday, May 8th.
And we're going to be talking about both those gentlemen a lot tonight. So
yes.
that is the connection. We're starting here. We're talking Psycho Clown, who I am now officially on the record as not liking. Thanks
we had
Dusty.
an interesting Facebook exchange with the fella this week. He just hated everything we liked and loved everything we hated.
Well, and in fairness, so I'm going to give the shout out for him too, because he also linked us to an event that he is a part of.
He was a good
sport. So he asked me why I didn't like Psycho Clown, and I said, in short, it comes down to, it's very complicated, and throughout the length of this show, people will discover more about why I don't like Psycho Clown. But in short, it's really just because he wins a lot and he's kind of goofy. But he linked us to an event that's hosting the poster. Lucha Libre Mexicana. Oh, I slaughtered that. Lucha Libre Mexicana. AAA invade Philadelphia. So that'll be on July 17th. Psycho Clown is on the poster. Mr. Iguana's on the poster.
Yes.
Sam Adonis is on. Diamante Azul is on the poster. They are going to have a big event going on July 17th.
They
so
are
I'm going to give
bringing
that a
in
shout
all
out.
big names. Yeah, it's crazy.
He told me to come out there and tell Psycho Clown that I don't like him to his face. I'm really short on airline fare for Philadelphia, but I'm very tempted to
I mean, yeah, as the saying goes, if you want to say something, say it to my face. I personally would not. Like, when I see him and meet him, say, yes, Mr. Psycho Clown, very nice to meet you. It's an honor and a pleasure. That's just me personally. However, you do you. It's a free country, and we have the right to like and not like wrestlers for that. I mean, acts funny and wins a lot. You're essentially talking about John Cena. You know? I mean, and
that comparison is there.
Yeah.
That comparison is totally there. It's also, I mean, just so people have a better understanding, it's also like kind of a hipstery thing, because everybody loves to hate the Yankees and everybody hates the Dallas Cowboys, and I hate Psycho Clown. So I mean, that means he's successful and he's
doing his job. So.
He's doing his job.
Well, if you want to see,
it's not a deep-seated hatred.
No, well, if you want to see Psycho Clown, possibly, I'm going to say we'll get beaten up by Sam Adonis, though I don't know who will win this one, but they have had very highly contested matches, just through the year already. Make sure you can view this online anywhere through the FSW network. It's only $6.99 a month to subscribe. Not only are you going to get this event for free once you subscribe, you'll also get lots and tons of other content, including previous pay-per-views and special events, best of series that features Karrion Kross, Zoe Stark, Chris Bay, Matt Hardy. People that you see on your TV all the time have passed through the doors of FSW. Hammerstone, Taya, and Hammerstone right now is the reigning FSW heavyweight champion. And we'll get to that because also next week FSW is hosting Changing the Game. That is going to be on Fight TV, and it's going to be featuring someone we're going to be talking about later this show, and that's Lio Rush. So
we're going to be talking about him a lot too.
Oh my gosh, this week, what's happening with this week? We can't.
It's all connected. It's
all connected. This is the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia scene of Charlie Day with the the string on the map and the conspiracy. Everything is connected. This week. It just personally hits home for me with Psycho de Mayo, Saturday, May 8th, through the FSW network. That's fswnetwork.com. You can get that for $6.99. Not only just that, but lots of other content through the FSW network. And then the following Friday, May 14th, is Changing the Game. That is going to be featuring Hammerstone and Lio Rush. So, and that is through the Fight TV app. So just personal plug there. Some great matches that are going to be happening over the next few weeks. And also a reminder to support your local independent promotions wherever you are.
Yeah.
It's part of that wrestling economy we talked with Zenshi about on the local scale. And so I always love to plug, independent promotions. If you aren't able to, go in person, many of them are offering streaming options, and now some of them have a huge library and catalog. So as much as, you would used to pay for maybe attending a show, promotions like FSW now have a whole library that you can access for a pretty good price. So check out fswnetwork.com. But, Brendan, you already started to talk a little bit about what's happening throughout the world of Lucha Libre.
True.
So let's just take it to the road back to shows.
Yeah, absolutely. We will do the road back to shows. I'm also going to throw out to IWTV, who we don't talk about enough on here, but they have at least 4 Lucha Libre promotions on there, plus all of your local communities. So same thing. They've really been stockpiling their libraries to get you your local wrestlers, and supporting them supports your local wrestler. So absolutely worth paying for, even if you never watch a minute, but there is so much great entertainment on IWTV that I can't imagine that would be true. So we're going to start with our traditional road back to shows information. Mexico City, still orange, not yellow, which means that having shows in Mexico City and the county around it is technically not allowed by the law, as we've talked about what my clarification is for why I don't talk about certain programming in the Indie Roundup. My problem with this, I mean, like Cubs fan who does Lucha Blog and I are kind of on a similar wavelength on this. They're with one hand, they're doing things like the head of Mexico State Boxing and Lucha Libre Commission said, Juan Jose Herrera, by the way, his name. He said that Lucha Libre in his state is only happening in clandestine arenas, which officially is true. But, I mean, all you have to do, I'm not going to name the promotion, all you have to do is go to their Facebook page to find out when and where they're hosting a show, and they're having literally packed out arenas. Like, there is no detective work involved. I can go, like, I, as an American who lives know exactly the addresses and the times to go to these shows, so I don't really view them as being that clandestine. But that was a statement from the news this week. We had Juan Jose Herrera talking about Lucha Libre isn't happening, and it is only happening in clandestine arenas. So, I don't know what politics looks like exactly in Mexico. I live pretty far away from that, and I live pretty far away from my own political scene. So maybe that's just how they're pretending to be, because a lot of these luchadors have nothing else to do to make money right now. You can't open a restaurant because nobody can go to restaurants. You can't, get a service job because nobody can get service jobs. You can't be a luchador right now because nobody can go watch you wrestle. So what do you do to make money right now? So I understand that there's some nuance to this, but that was our big news out of Mexico City, is that they're staying orange for at least 2 more weeks. The way things are going with kind of the injection regression, I'm going to call it. I think that's the best term for it, where everybody gets poked and then thinks they can just walk out in public without their mask on. I think that's going to have impact for a few more weeks. I know it's looking like that up here. We have other fun stuff to talk about. In a interesting turn of events, I know Dusty will be excited on this one, although he's probably heard it. Samurai del Sol is teasing a boxing match for
for celebrity boxing.
Yeah. So he will probably be boxing in the mask. It's a celebrity fight group Triller, just to get the name out there. Fight Network is promoting it, so we will probably be able to see the match on Fight Network. But it's celebrity boxing. I don't know who else is in the pool for this right now, but usually that's reality. That's like how Jake Paul and Logan Paul got started in the boxing thing. They did celebrity boxing. So it's usually reality stars, some athletes. So, who knows? Maybe he'll box somebody from the NBA or the NFL or something that will, draw American eyes to it. But, it's very exciting. Not what I would have expected for those of you who aren't aware, that's Kalisto, who recently left the WWE. It's not what I would have expected him to do right after leaving the WWE. But on the other hand, it's fun, there's no pressure, and it's athletic, so why not? I mean, yeah, it sounds like Dusty had some thoughts on this one already. Kalisto, for those of you who don't know, Kalisto / Samurai del Sol is kind of a favorite of Dusty's. So
yeah, I really like him. I don't know about the boxing thing. Like, if he wins, it's going to be amazing. But if he loses, like, after how he wasn't used in WWE, I feel like it doesn't do anything to help his financial drawing ability and his standing, like, in the eyes of wrestling fans. Like, you're only as big as your last win. And when was the last time he won something? So if he wins, it'll be great. But if he doesn't, it'll be... And then the other thing is, like, his size differential, I don't know who they would bring in. I mean, strength, I think he could match up with almost anybody. But he's not a humongous guy compared to some of these boxers. And so it'll be kind of...
Yeah, like I was joking about the NBA or the NFL, but absolutely outsized by those guys.
And that's also more challenging because then you go to maybe it is like a reality TV star, you know, or a former act, you know, and so I could see like at least here, I don't know how it's treated in other places, but here in the United States, you know, it's gotten more popular now because of like the Logan Pauls and it's, you know, being on pay-per-view, but most of the time those types of events are kind of looked at just more comical, more, you know, like even a step below a lot of local entertainment, you know? So just the fact that that's what he's jumping to first is kind of like, wait, don't you have some other things you would want to do first? Like, shouldn't this be further down the line when everything else falls through? But, you know.
Yeah. Maybe very true. To your point about if he loses, that if he's in there against like a reality celebrity, the American audience absolutely will start dunking on him. That is what anybody who loses to one of the Paul brothers right now is a internet meme for a while. So so yeah, I now that you've mentioned that, I hope he wins.
Yeah, me too.
I hope he wins.
He wins too.
Moving on, Federation Wrestling, who we talked about last week, the new kind of up and coming. They're calling themselves the third national federation, the third national promotion. So they're billing themselves as a national promotion, which tends to imply they will have shows in a variety of places throughout Mexico. They want to have a TV deal, all of that sort of thing. I mean, they haven't even gotten their first show out, and then they're trying to put themselves in that position. But based on who they've got signed, we'll see. They released a poster this week with a bunch of matches and a bunch of faces, and then they had their press conference last week, and which kind of went over this. So we're gonna go over what we've got. This is gonna be intertwined with stuff we're already kind of alluding to. So, the poster starts with the undercard match of Shaco Barabbas versus Brillante Jr. It sounds like two nameless undercard guys, but these are both friends of guys that are up higher on the card. So this is your spot that you see, like, I mean, you'll see some of this in comparably, you'll see some of this in like AEW. You'll see people on Dark that you clearly got their, they got their television time because they're friends with somebody who's higher up on the card. So, don't be surprised if you see these guys a lot on Federation Wrestling. This is kind of what I'm getting at. You might get to know them. I haven't seen too many of their matches, but I haven't heard anything bad about them either. So that's the one I'm the most curious about. Next we have Rey Horus versus Flamita versus Luchador Surprise. So this is a story that we've been talking about in ROH. It's the breakup of the Mexican
squad, yeah.
squad. They're taking it to the Indies. So it almost doesn't matter who that third person is, because those two together is something we've seen teased a little bit. We saw that 3-way at the ROH anniversary show. I've seen them at indie shows tear the house down. This could be the steal the show match right here. So that'll be fun. And then we have the ladies match. We have Tay Conti, Ayoka Hamada, and a surprise wrestler versus Red Velvet, Miranda Morales. And so it's the first time I've seen Zooksies on a big stage in a while, which is great. Last time was during the women's tournament at the very beginning of lockdown, and she hasn't done much since then. Similar with Hamada, she's been kind of, and then we have the two AEW ladies, Tay Conti and Red Velvet, on either side of the card, so that's clearly to balance it out. That was modified from the original version of the poster, where they were both on the same team. So it seems like things are being a little more fluid, and maybe, just maybe, some of these wrestlers are helping make educated decisions, which might make the smoothness of the card happen a little better. Then we have the match everybody's talking about. The Lucha Bros versus Dragon Lee and Bandito. I mean, good God.
Yeah, this is going to be so exciting. Yeah. Like, this is the match for me.
Yeah, I feel like, despite the fact that you have bigger names in the next match that I haven't mentioned yet, that's the that is a whole lot of pay-per-views, because you're going to have 4 of the hottest luchadors in the indie circuit in the ring at the same time doing lucha things, because this is a lucha promotion and not an American indie promotion. So it's gonna be a show and a half. As always, remember, card subject to change. We don't even know for sure if all of these guys have officially confirmed or if they just got their face thrown on a poster, but that's where we're at. And then the next one is the main event. We've got Ruth, Andrade, and Bestia del Ring, plus someone else, against Matt Taven, TJ Black, and a couple of more mystery luchadors. Now, you noticed that we've said there's a lot of mystery luchadors here. I think that's because we're still a good ways out, and releasing big name talent as you're going through is going to be important, because they don't have regular TV to just keep people's attention focused on them.
Exactly.
However, back to this, it's all connected thing. They are making other big moves on that. So we will be talking about what Federation Wrestling is probably doing to keep eyes on them later in the show. So definitely keep your ears open. As far as pricing, they released that during the press conference too. If you're outside of Mexico or Japan, it's going to be $20 American. Until they raise price like the week of the event. Well, it's pretty standard pay-per-view things. Yeah. So they're like, if you order now, you get the cheap price. If you wait until the last minute, we're going to raise the price. But right now, it's $20 American. It's a little less expensive if you're in Mexico, and it's a little more expensive if you're in Japan. I don't know why they made Japan the scapegoat, but hey. But there you go.
It's interesting.
Nobody they haven't given us any information on if there's going to be a video on demand option, so we do want to make sure it's the 19th of June. It's going to be on iPay-per-view. You have to their site and sign up for it, and then they will email you details. So if you don't have that information, it has been posted in the Facebook group that we have for all of the podcasts or you can contact any of the members of the show and we will send you the link, because it is a little hard to find if you don't know what you're looking for. But if you just Google Federation Wrestling, you'll find the poster, which has a link on it too. So you don't want to rely on us. That's your way to do it. They did make some new talent announcements. They officially confirmed Andrade is going to be part of Federation Wrestling, and then also Villano 3 Jr. has teased joining Federation Wrestling, and already people are speculating that he could be in that Horus and Flamita match, which would be, I mean, that's the one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah,
multi-man matches like that, so it would be an excellent addition, I think.
I have no idea what Federation's production values are, being a new one, but in ROH they handle multi-man matches really well.
Yes.
And Horus and Flamita, having worked primarily with that, would mean that they would have a really good handle on how to do it. So I'm fairly excited for this. So that's Federation Wrestling. Another name that may come up later in the show is Diamante Azul, who has quietly been removed from CMLL's website, and unlike Dragon Lee or ROH, they have not said anything about parting ways with him. But it seems very obvious he has, because he's been shown on other shows. We'll be talking about some of that later, but he's been showing up at other shows. He's said in an interview that he is still the Mexican national heavyweight champion, and he intends to continue being champion, even though this is CMLL, that is a belt that has most recently been defended on CMLL shows. This is where it gets weird. In the other shows that he's appeared, he hasn't been wearing the belt. So some people are speculating that champions don't get to leave Arena Mexico with the belt just in case of politics. Yeah. So he may be a champion without a belt, and they may have a belt that can't ever be defended while he's still technically champion. But because this is actually a belt that is sanctioned by the Wrestling and Boxing Commission of Mexico, it's not, CMLL can't do a WWE and just strip him of the belt and hold a tournament. So yeah, he could very, very well be the national heavyweight champion until he dies. Which is
for life.
Yeah, so I mean, just very interesting stuff. In another part of this departure from CMLL, he is, when he's appearing, he's often using the abbreviation DMT Azul or Diamante, in the same vein as Pentagon Jr. changing to Penta L0M. The name technically is owned by CMLL. It was a brilliant idea they had to make a wrestler that looked exactly like Blue Demon, only not Blue Demon. And so they created this Diamante Azul persona. And but all you have to do is add a DMT apparently, and you're good to go. So it's going to be very interesting. And again, stay tuned. We will have more on him later. But that is my road back to shows. I'm going to do a quick little indie roundup. Since we were pushing hard here, I'm going to mention again, please, if you are an indie fan, indie promoter, indie wrestler, send the show your links to your shows. Like, I will now be watching this show from Philadelphia in one way or another. I don't care if it's somebody's hand cam footage. I'm going to find it. It was linked to me. And I will watch some of it and we will talk about it on the air. The more you guys do that, it's not just about filling out the show. It's about supporting the local guys. And we're going to start, as the world kicks up, we're going to start running out of time to that you get your stuff in. So because I am all about that. That's how I got onto the show. I work here up in Seattle in the indie scene, and if you ask anybody up here, I'm very passionate about supporting indie wrestling. So please give me your. Real quick, we did have CCW had Christy Janes, which again I'm going to stress that is Legends of Lucha Libre star Christy Janes challenging for their women's title against Miranda Tucker. This was more of a Texas-style Lucha Libre match, I'm going to put it that way. Lots of brawling on the outside, punching, and near 20 counts. Power bomb on the outside nearly ended the match. They did a thing. I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit here. They did a thing where the cameraman threw up the X sign, for those of you who don't know, and is supposed to be a very discreet sign from the talent, either the ref or the wrestlers, to the back to say that something really serious has happened. And this is why this bothered me, because they restarted the match after that. Like, if you're going to, if you're going to throw the X and the cameraman catches it, that needs to be sacred, in my opinion. That needs to be the one thing in wrestling you don't, it exists, and you hope you never see it. And they restarted this match. I hope Christy Janes really wasn't hurt. It was after she got power bombed on the outside. The camera was on the wrong side of the ring, so I didn't get to see what might have happened. But they restarted. Christy Janes got a little more beat up and then took the pinfall, which is not surprising because they've been really pushing Miranda Tucker as a heel champ that finds a way to win. So it was a good match. It was a lot of fun. I do recommend it. Also on this show, Le Champion, Chris Jericho, cut a little bit of a promo on wrestler Cha-Cha Charlie, where he kept saying things like, he kept exaggerating the Cha-Cha Charlie thing. It was pretty fun, pretty good. And he said he wants to come down someday. So maybe we will see Chris Jericho, the Lionheart, show up in Florida.
Interesting.
Right? But that's the match I have for you on the Indie Roundup this week. Once again, send me your matches. We'll talk about them on the air. I love all of you guys out there in the indie world, so I will make the time for you as best I can. And that's my Indie Roundup.
Thank you, Brendan, for giving us the road back to shows and this week's Indie Roundup. Next, we're going to kick it to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Math, Mats, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's straight out of the bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
And as always, a big thank you to Denise Salcedo, letting us know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now to this week's events, this week's shows. And we're going to do something a little bit different. We're still going to kick it off to Dusty, but we're going to be starting with a different promotion instead of WWE. Dusty, I'm going to let you take it away. It's all yours.
Yeah, well, this week we're going to give the main segment to AAA. They earned it this week with Rey de Reyes. Like, oh my gosh, what a show, right? Like, so good. And gave us a lot to cover here. Mm-hmm. This was easily the best AAA show since the beginning of the pandemic. Like, they figured so many things out. There were a lot of multi-man matches. Like I mentioned before, this is the year of the multi-man match. Not a lot of singles matches, which isn't exactly to my liking, but they did a much better job with the multi-man format this time than they did like at Triple Mania, for instance. It just felt less chaotic and cluttered in a lot of ways. The setting was beautiful. They were in one of the pueblas in Mexico. Beautiful setting. The sun goes down through the show. Stunning visuals. But first up, we had Latigo defeating Dinastia, Toxin, Aramis, and Aries to earn a shot at the AAA Cruiserweight Championship in an amazing match. This was a real show stealer right out of the gate. It was action-packed. Things were constantly happening. It was just so exciting. Real high-impact Lucha Libre. After Latigo won, Laredo Kid came out to challenge him, talk some trash after the match. So he's there. It was just excellent. I cannot recommend this match enough. They really tried to steal the show. It wasn't quite the show stealer for me, but it was a strong candidate. And the next match was what really stole the show for me, the Latin American Championship match. If you recall, Daga dropped the title. He said it was because there was no talent fitting the challenge for him to defend it, but it's also due to his U.S. residency. He can't leave the country for 6 months. And so, but whatever. And so we had Taurus and we had Octagon Jr. and a surprise entrant, Luchador Sorpresa. And the surprise entrant was Viano 3 Jr. The match started, and within 60 seconds, Viano 3 seemed to be knocked out due to a kick. And then everything just kind of went crazy for a few minutes. It's hard to explain. The cameramen didn't seem to know what to do. The wrestlers tried. Tejano came out and to ringside and kind of yelled at the announcers for a while. It was just very disjointed and felt like they were killing time. But, at least Taurus and Octagon got to work together in this absence. It was really good. Viano 3 Jr. finally stumbles back to the ring. Octagon just kicked the the stumble right out of him. And then he did a moonsault to Torres, a moonsault to Viano 3 Jr. And then he gives Viano 3 a nasty head scissors from the apron to the ground that sound didn't look like it, had a back injury, tailbone injury. It was painful looking, but Torres wins after pinning Viano 3. He came back after being knocked out because he was paid to do the job. And it's not like we need concussion protocol or anything like that. But anyway, after the match, Viano 3 was either hurt or sold it like it killed him. They loaded him onto a flat stretcher, carried him out from the ring, while Torres celebrated with the championship. They tried to buckle it around his waist, but he's so big it just wouldn't stay on. It was incredible. Great moment for him, but an odd moment with Viano 3.
I would like to point out that is actually very common in Mexico for making the moment bigger, is to have they do this a lot in Arena Mexico too, to have the person holding the belt while the other person is literally being carted out, and it is a lot of the time just for story. So hopefully, knock on wood, Viano 3 doesn't really have a concussion.
The story afterwards was that he was okay backstage.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that's true, but it's also, like a machismo thing too. No, I'm fine. And so, but
which is actually the first thing people with concussions say. I have heard from multiple wrestlers, don't believe me if I say I'm fine after I hit my head.
But yeah, hopefully he's doing well, and great match. We'll see him at Federacion. Apparently he's kind of hyping that up now, so exciting things for him in the future. It seems that he worked the match as an independent star, which is kind of interesting. AAA had been resistant to that before, but now we see that with him and Laredo Kid, so...
and most of the opener match too. With the exception of Dynastia, that was all the people that I've been talking about on the Indie Roundup for the last year. So,
yeah, it was very cool to see a lot of these guys on such a big show.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And next up, we have the women's Reina de Reyes championship match, and in the entrances, Sexy Star was announced. And I feel like everybody was like, what? But as soon as we saw her, this wasn't the Sexy Star we used to know. It was clear from the moment she made her entrance that this is not the Sexy Star from Lucha Underground or the previous AAA runs. This was a new Sexy Star played by a luchadora who had been, her name was Ia del Gatabuela. And so, there had been some curiosity about who had been involved in the Marvel matches, and this may be the answer to that as well. And it's interesting that they've decided to rebrand that gimmick, so that was exciting. But then we had the match. We had Deonna Purrazzo on commentary. Despite liking her, I found her to be quite redundant on commentary. It just wasn't for me. Maybe it was her staying in character, or maybe it was the language barrier, but it made it feel like she was ill-informed on the product and ill-informed on the people in the match, and it was dismissive in a way that I didn't care for. It made it feel like Lucha was somehow less than, and I was not a fan of that.
Yeah, I think it feels more like in character, because that is really that persona. So I that's what I'm leaning towards. That's what I almost would hope it is. Because as you'll get into, her involvement later, it feels like she was really setting up for what we were going to see later on.
It was almost definitely in character. I agree with Cubs fans' assessment on this. I read on his blog. It was just too long. That is the kind of talk and the kind of, you can do that dismissive, heelish stuff for a minute or two, and it's very entertaining. But for a 15-minute match, 15, 20-minute match, it's too much, and it starts to,
But we run down. Fabi Apache won the match, defeating Lady Shani, Flamer, Chick Tormenta, Lady Maravilla, and the all-new sexy star. And afterwards, as we were mentioning, Deonna Purrazzo, she challenges Fabi Apache title versus title. Fabi wasn't interested until the idea of having the match at Triple Mania was brought up. And then she agreed. That's, she wanted that match. And afterwards, Deonna laid her out with a big power bomb. So it did set up an interesting angle for the title and for Fabi Apache. So it'll be, I would love to see Deonna Purrazzo get her comeuppance in character, or not. It would be so cool to have Fabi Apache as the double champion. And
she deserves that.
I mean, it is, though, again, you wonder how that would even work as, her as a double champion or even Deonna. I mean, and it also kind of just is a throwback to the previous Impact Knockouts champion in Taya Valkyrie, who held both titles at the same time. So it's just historical. It throws back. But yeah, I mean, after kind of all of the issues that Impact's had now with Kenny Omega becoming their world champion and still the AAA mega champion, you kind of hope, this could be a good way for Impact to get some good leverage, but also, the fact that they've gone through all this trouble to crown a new Reina de Reinas champion, it does make sense to keep it on someone and have it just reestablish the title after it kind of been gone for so long. And not so much gone, but just hasn't been defended on television pay-per-views for quite some time.
I kind of wonder if this was supposed to have Taya, where they were going to have Taya and do this at Triple Mania and then have Taya become the double champion, and they're just doing the best they can with COVID having stretched everything out. Because it would make sense to have your championship up in America for a while, get more eyes on it that way, bring it back at Triple Mania, have the hometown hero win it, and all of that. It will be spectacular if that's how it plays out.
Yeah, I agree.
That'd be incredible. And next up, we had the Rey de Reyes match. Laredo Kid won the big sword when he defeated Tejano Jr., Murder Clown, Aerostar, Drago, Abismo Negro Jr., Io del Vikingo, and Mystices Jr. Laredo Kid and Io del Vikingo started the match, and they were amazing. Like, I hope this sets up a feud in the future. Anything that would get me a singles match between these guys, like, that's a match of the year contender, AAA. Like, somebody write this down. We need to see that match. And afterwards we had more entrances, and it felt a little disgenuine to me because it was clear at a certain point they were holding off on eliminations until after all the wrestlers were in the ring. But having all the wrestlers in the ring at the same time gave a chaotic feeling once the match kind of fully got underway, once everybody was in the ring. And I am just not a fan of that dynamic in a Rumble setting. But it was a great match. I did enjoy it a lot. Laredo and Tejano Jr. were the last two, and despite some interference from Rey Escorpion, Laredo Kid was able to get the title of Rey de Reyes and win the big sword. And then next up we had the main event of Pagano and Psycho Clown, which went to an apparent no finish with Chessman and his surprise partner, Sam Adonis. Sam Adonis, who, after listening to commentary, apparently time traveled here from 2018 CMLL to join Chessman. And they made it sound like he just jumped, but he hasn't had a match there for 3 years, people. So I'm just saying. But Chessman had new hair after he lost his hair in the Apuestas match at Triple Mania. It was not great, but it looked good. It just wasn't intimidating. I liked the old longer hair look. But at least he's trying. And Diamante, Azul, and Puma King show up, actual jumps from CMLL, just showed up to help put the beat down on Pagano and Psycho Clown. Chessman, he tried, but they didn't want any part of him either, so they gave him a powerbomb through the table. Sam Adonis announced that they were part of a group called La Empresa, And Diamante Azul looked exactly the same as he always did. Puma King changed up his look a little. I mean, it did look more villainous, more heel. I really liked it. But Diamante Azul was the same Diamante Azul we've always seen. It was pretty incredible, honestly. And then after the match, this is where the big exciting news happens. It cuts to a video, and it's former NXT World Champion El Idolo Andrade. He showed up in a videotaped segment. He looked like a Mafia Don. It was incredible. He said that he wants a match with Psycho Clown, but first he wants a title match for the AAA Mega Campeon Championship against Kenny Omega at Triple Mania. And it appears that he is also the leader of La Empresa. So it's, a lot of exciting stuff going on with Andrade.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, even though he's showing up in these segments, I believe it was the Federación tournament, or show rather, is exactly 90 days from when he was released from WWE.
Yeah.
And he, all these matches are set in the future. Like, all of his matches are set in the future right now. But it's exciting. Kenny Omega said on Twitter that he would think about it, that he was a busy guy, but who better to wrestle and defend the championship at Triple Mania? It's got to be Andrade. But if Andrade can challenge Kenny Omega for the title, why isn't he challenging for all the titles? Why is it just the title?
Good point.
You've got a belt.
Why challenge him for one when you could challenge him for all of them?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and why settle for one when you could have them all? But it's incredible. Andrade's timing. Those of us that saw him in America, we were like, Andrade's got great English. He's great. But when you see him speaking in Spanish like that, it's different. His command is so much stronger, and he just so much more impressive and like a more dominating presence in the video that I really enjoyed seeing from him.
The delivery is a little smoother, and that I think that, and again, it's just translation, but I think that comes across in all the things that you said, that there's even a little bit more confidence, there's more intimidation, there's more sureness, and so I think that comes across, in just the delivery of his promos in Spanish versus English, though his English promos were very solid, especially for the level of WWE. When you think about it, there's for Monday Night Raw, you didn't necessarily have to have a forceful delivery. You just had to have a delivery for the purposes of what he was doing. But I think it all really came together during this show, because it also was like a clear stamp of he is back and he is coming for this championship and he's going straight to the top for his request. So I think, it was, as far as upcoming challengers, one of the better ideas they have right now.
I do too. And I think it's going to draw the most eyes to the AAA product, because those are two names that American fans know, Andrade and Kenny Omega. And they know Andrade left WWE. A lot of fans that, not even necessarily smart fans, but like the, regular fans know that Andrade and Charlotte are together. There's been some speculation, will Charlotte be watching his matches? Will she be there? So that builds some excitement and momentum around his presence in a strange way too. There's just a lot going on with Andrade that makes him the most obvious focal point to go up against Kenny Omega. It seemed they were building to Vikingo, but this is, much more exciting. Sorry,
so much better. So much. No worries. So I have to temper this a little bit. The flip side is that your more average fan, I'm going to call them, on social media, were really still see Andrade as the jobber that left WWE. They think that, Kenny Omega is riding high right now, and Andrade really never got out of the blocks and has been branded by those people as the jobber. So I personally am looking forward to him putting on a really, really good match so that those guys shut up. But That just so we can give a more robust image of what this looks like in America to, there's people that want this really bad, like us, and probably the majority of people listening to us, but there's also people who have already lost interest because the damage WWE did. And I bring this up because we're talking about AAA now, not WWE in the spot we were talking.
Yeah. Well, but I do think about how, Kenny Omega's presence with Impact did help with some buy rates for a Rebellion.
God, yes.
So, I mean, like, this will help if they do happen to do it. Like, it will help with buy rates, whether it's a casual fan, whether it's a, fair weather fan, whether it's a consistent fan. I think this is definitely going to increase some buy rates from people who I think are just more curious than anything. But that's just my 2 cents.
You're absolutely right. It, at the end of the day, is going to help with buy rate, period. Like, there's,
Absolutely.
There's no way that having Kenny Omega at this point in Kenny Omega's career is not going to put more eyes on AAA, no matter who they put in there. But putting Andrade in there means that all of Mexico is going to be watching to see if this is the time that they get their championship back. So, all in all, I think it's a really good move.
Yeah, I do too. I'm really excited for what AAA has coming. This is, like I've said at the beginning, it's the most momentum they've had in a while. Like, this is the AAA we all knew they could be. There were several moments in the show that weren't perfect, but they were pretty exciting. And, the excitement going from forward is incredible. And so we'll see what they do. AAA are on a roll, it seems like, right now. Triple Mania was pretty good. This was great. We're supposed to have Verano de Escándalo later this summer, probably in July. We're looking at Triple Mania in August or September. No official date has been announced, but if they can have crowds in August, it'll probably be in August, and if they can't, they'll probably be in September. That's just the way it goes.
Yep.
That's the game.
But yeah, big
Stay
things.
tuned to the Road Back to shows for updates on Triple Mania at this point. But yeah. Man.
Very exciting.
Yes. Well, Dusty, go ahead and take us through AEW this week, because also a very big show for them.
Yes, yeah, big week for AEW. First up, though, we don't want to forget AEW Dark. We're covering 2 matches from Dark this week. First up, we had Layla Hirsch defeating Diamante. This was a great match, with Layla obviously becoming the star in the making, and so this match was her chance to shine. They exchanged some brutal strikes, the kind of thing you would really expect between Layla Hirsch and Diamante. And I loved the match. It was fantastic. Just the physicality was very turned up, and the kind of thing you don't normally see in a women's match. It was great. Fortunately, Diamante didn't win. This match really highlighted both women, but you cannot deny Layla's legitimate skills. Like, her star is definitely rising. So keep an eye on Layla Hirsch. She's definitely on her way up, and she's becoming a star in AEW.
She's got all the tools.
Yeah.
She really does.
All of them.
Just fantastic, and such an amazing technical worker. And yeah, just like I mentioned, the physicality is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of physicality, we had Pac defeating Serpentico. Pac is insane. He looks like a buffalo or something. Like, he's just so muscle bound. It's incredible. But unfortunately for Serpentico, his biggest weakness in a match is when he cannot be used as Luther's projectile offense. And so, Pac was able to take advantage of that. He was able to force him to submit. It was a very quick match, but it was really good. If you love Pac, this was especially cool. And I guess Pac is probably honorary Lucha now, since he's in Death Triangle and hangs out with Penta and Phoenix. So,
and he can do some Lucha things.
Yeah. And it's just fantastic match. Again, those were the 2 highlights of Dark. But what we had next was the Dynamite Blood and Guts. Before we get to the main event, though, we had a tag team match between SCU, Jurassic Express, Varsity Blondes, and the Acclaimed. This was a fun tag team match. The winners get a future tag team title shot, even though I thought SCU seemed to secure one last week, but whatever. The Acclaimed had an amazing entrance.
Yes.
Max Kester had a rap during
Killed
their
it.
intro.
Killed
about
it.
how,
Like,
yes.
yeah, I just have
so
to.
good. It was
Max
so
Caster
rude.
is.
Yeah.
I literally went through back to his Instagram to look back because I've seen them before, but it'd been a while to go back through some of his raps. But this week's was brutal, brutal rap. But Max Caster is worth the price of admission.
Oh my gosh, so good. It was all about how Brian Pillman Jr. will be on Dark Side of the Ring in 10 years, just like his dad. Like, I love this kind of heel work. Like, exactly what I'm here for.
Also, Nick having some new names for the Young Bucks. Saying, Luchasaurus is going to be a fossil. All of it. You just got to go. Go to Matt Caster's Instagram, social media page. Every, time he comes out and does his rap, he posts it. And you just got to watch it.
It's gold every time. But this week was like platinum. It was so good. And everybody had a chance to shine in this match in their way. Luchasaurus had an amazing choke slam on Kazarian and threw him onto the Varsity Blondes who were at ringside. And eventually, Pillman rolls Kazarian up for a 2 count, but Daniels was back in the ring for the BME. He caught Brian Pillman Jr. for the win. And now we have SCU versus Young Bucks officially next week for the title. I don't know if SCU are still going to break up if they lose the match. Like, that's been kind of stipulated. But since then, Scorpio Sky has slowly slipped away from SCU. And I think that this could be their swan song, Like, story-wise, I don't see them beating the Young Bucks. I don't know what it would serve story-wise. And so I feel like this may be their final match if they're going to stick with that. The agreement to break up when they lose. And they've been on quite a winning streak since then. So we'll see what happens. But next up, we had the main event. We had Blood and Guts. This was typical War Games rules. WCW style, NXT style, we know what they are. The 2 rings, entrant every 5 minutes. The crowd was loving this match more than I can explain. Like, that the crowd before wasn't very big, but when you heard the crowd at Blood and Guts, like, they just responded to everything. It was incredible. And I realized how much I missed that in a wrestling show. Mm-hmm. Even when you hear it, like on Raw and SmackDown, it's piped in and it's artificial, like you still feel like you can hear Desi Arnaz clapping back there in the clap track. And so just the live presence was incredible. Sammy and Dax Harwood were the first 2 in the ring, and they chopped it up in the ring, and they fought against the fence. Sean Spears enters. Sammy took a chair, it was probably a gimmicked chair, but it was a brutal chair shot. He gets a big cut on his arm. It's incredible. Ortiz enters. Santana and Ortiz are painted up like the dead presidents. They looked incredible. They used that before with the street fight. I believe we saw it once before in Impact, too, in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's great look for them. Cash Wheeler enters after Ortiz. Santana enters after Cash Wheeler. Then Wardlow enters during the commercial break. Jake Hager enters. MJF enters. And Chris Jericho enters. So finally we get everybody in. And the match it's incredible and it's bloody. Everybody, for the most part, gets busted open. Everybody takes turns beating on MJF and Wardlow. They take apart the ring. They have a turnbuckle. The chair, everything becomes a weapon. And then Tully opens the cage. MJF escapes and climbs the truss next to the cage to the top. Jericho follows. He gets put in the lion tamer on top. It's incredible. then they turn around. MJF has Jericho in an armbar. Finally, he gets into the edge of the cage and threatens to throw Jericho off the top of the cage if the Inner Circle will not surrender. And Sammy Guevara, the guy who is always looking out for Chris Jericho, even when he doesn't deserve it, he surrenders for the team. MJF throws Jericho off of the cage anyway to a very soft landing. And I thought it was a mattress and padding. Everybody thought it was, but the rumor or word came out today. It was not mattress and padding. It was just layers and layers of cardboard. Like
that's what it looked like. At least like a cardboard. It was almost like like the same material, like a kid's cardboard, like playhouse.
Exactly.
Be. Like it just. That's what it seemed like.
Yeah. Yep. More or less.
And it was obvious that what was supposed to look like the diamond plate steel was some kind of printed foam. And it wasn't an exciting drop. And I don't know. I mean, it wasn't as bad as the sparklers were for the exploding ring.
Yeah.
But it felt like a close second. And
we've seen WWE do it plenty of times, and I think that's almost just that small nuance.
McMahon.
Yes, exactly. Like that nuance of like them trying to make it look like the steel. If they would have had it, and I'm pretty sure they've done it before, where it's some kind of just like black draping, or like if they would have done that, I think it would have gone over better. But the fact that they tried to make it look like the steel steps was, again, you're trying too hard. So
like I
nuance.
said off the off the air. Part of that is more on the camera and production team. If they had done it the reverse angle and not shown him hitting the ground as close as they did, and they just showed from somebody had a hand cam footage of it, and they said this should be the Canon footage of it, and because it looked really impressive. You saw everything break and collapse, but you had no idea that was cardboard. It looked great, or they could have done, someone else suggested, where they just cut away from the actual impact. You see him get pushed off. You cut to Sammy, say, his face, and watch him react to that. That's just better storytelling and production. And then when you cut back to what's happened to Jericho, maybe, or maybe you don't, but you now have ways to get around the cardboard. You can have him moved. You can have referees blanketing the whole area so that nobody really sees what's going on. It's like you were talking about, and I alluded to with the Shane McMahon thing. We know it's there. We know that wrestlers' safety is being protected. And thank you, by the way, because I immediately thought of like Sammy and Matt Hardy from.
That's why I wondered if that's why they were being so safe.
Well, and he's 50 years old and the highest ratings draw they've got. So you've got lots of reasons to protect Chris frickin' Jericho. Just, but in that case, you're going to do that. You can have the guys in the production ready to make it look good. You should have guys, the experts at filming stunt work like that to make it look better. And to me, and I've turned this into way too long of a rant, I'm sorry. To me, that should have been on Tony Khan and the guys in the car to fix that, because the talent they could to make it look good.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems that ever since the spot with Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara, like you mentioned, that any of their like stunts or any of their stunt spots have just been overly safe in a way that break your suspension of disbelief while you're watching. Like it's not that we expect them to actually be hurt, but when we see the paper, the diamond plate stuff moving around, like why not just paint the cardboard black like Miranda said? Just paint it black. And none of us would have thought that much of it. And it just highlighted how not real it was in a way that was not great. And I also felt that the match just went on a little too long. If they had reduced the time between entrances to 3 minutes each, I think it would have greatly improved the pacing of the match. It was just a little long for me.
I have some thoughts on that too, real quick. I think that's because of commercial breaks. I think everything felt longer and more stretched out because they were clearly slowing the pace down during commercial breaks.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true.
Had this been on a pay-per-view where they don't have to break away every 7 to 10 minutes to sell toilet paper or whatever it is they were doing, you have a tighter match. You have people doing bigger events. You even said it when you were breaking this down. An entrance happened during a commercial break. How freaking annoying is that?
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times with AEW, when something like that happens, they'll put the full match up online. That didn't happen with Blood and Guts, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
But there was no way to see it without commercial interruption. At least, for most TV viewers, there was no way to see it.
People overseas got with no commercial breaks, but that meant that they were more painfully aware of what the match slowed down during the commercial break because they were not doing anything major during that point. They weren't doing big spots. They weren't taking big bumps. They weren't taking big risks at that point because nobody's watching. Which again adds to that feeling that you had of the match being too long because they're obviously playing for time.
Yeah. But all in all, it was an exciting first time match for AEW, and it establishes MJF as the top heel in the company, as he should be.
It does.
Reestablishes him,
yes.
I will point out.
It sets up a lot of excitement going forward. We also saw a little bit of Kenny Omega. His title match at Double or Nothing will be decided next week in a match between Darby Allin and Pac, I believe.
Or Orange Cassidy.
Or Orange Cassidy.
Yeah,
That's
Orange
right.
Cassidy and Orange Cassidy versus Pac, yes.
That's right, yeah. And
that makes more sense. I was like, but Darby's already got a belt.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
But very, very interesting number one contenders match coming up next week.
So a lot of interesting stuff going on in AEW. Keep checking back. We'll keep reporting on it, but it's very exciting right now.
Thank you. Of course, the results, as we talked about for AAA, Rey de Reyes was on luchacentral.com. Of course, all of the AEW shows have results on luchacentral.com. This week in MLW, wow. So,
right?
You came for us, MLW. You came
they really did
so much in
this
just
was their
an
season
hour.
finale, right?
Yes, it was their season finale. They're going to be on a little bit of a hiatus until July 10th, which is their first live show in Philadelphia, something they've really touted and are pushing for. But yeah, this is the season finale, and boy, oh boy, did we get a lot. And I have to admit, I'm totally building up. I'm so excited for what's to come in MLW, because from what we saw this week, there are some big plans in the future. And as we said, everything is connected. How? Well, let's start off with the first match, which is Laredo Kid versus Gringo Loco, which I was very excited to hear about.
Yes.
And this is a topic we've talked about on the show just a few weeks ago, and that is the controversy regarding the AAA Cruiserweight Championship from the results from Laredo Kid and Leo Rush. It was reported on Cubs and several different sources and websites that AAA was contesting the results of the match, pretty much not acknowledging Leo Rush as the Cruiserweight champion, even though on social media they had acknowledged it. But there was some stories behind the scenes that Lio Rush wasn't supposed to win the championship. However, then that led to a lot of, well, then why did he win? Or this was pre-taped.
Yeah.
But Laredo Kid did come out with the Cruiserweight Championship. And also we've seen him with pictures. If you saw him right after Rey de Reyes, he had posted a picture with the sword and the Cruiserweight Championship as well. So there was already signs prior to that he was not letting that go. So they did acknowledge that he is pretty much decided not to relinquish the championship. As far as the explanation, they stated, the commentary team stated that Laredo Kid had contested that Lio Rush tapped out. And they replayed the match as far as that part, and really Laredo said that Lio tapped out. Technically there was one tap, and commentary mentioned that in order for a submission to be verified or to be acknowledged, someone has to tap 3 times. So pretty much, they're just letting it be, it seems like. So Laredo Kid is still the AAA Cruiserweight champion. They didn't necessarily say when or if a rematch was going to happen, but, big picture wise, that is something that was addressed this week on MLW television. As far as the match goes, a great match between Laredo Kid and Gringo Loco. Again, Gringo Loco, for the size that this man is, does phenomenal high flying maneuvers. And it started right at the beginning of the match. But Laredo Kid came in quick, and had a tilt-a-whirl takeover, shortly after the match started. And Laredo Kid also had several, Hurricane Ranas both in and outside of the ring. However, Gringo Loco had such a very cool inverted DDT Samoan drop combination that almost got a near fall. But shortly after that, though, he missed a moonsault attempt, and that was when kind of the momentum in the match itself shifted and changed, where Laredo Kid was able to capitalize on that and had a moonsault that landed very, very well. And ultimately Laredo Kid won the match with a Spanish fly, belly to belly from the top rope variation. It depends, commentary call it a belly to belly variation from the top rope, but it looked like it was supposed to be a Spanish fly. I'm not the scientist in this, but it just looked very cool. But Laredo Kid won. So, this leaves so many questions regarding the partnership long-term between AAA and AAA and MLW because of, all of this drama seemingly with the Cruiserweight Championship. But some interesting news did come out this week from MLW as well as the future. One of them is that MLW is doing a draft. They are going to be drafting and bringing in talent from all over the world. So that leaves a big question mark on if we are going to see more AAA talent come in, or just talent from different parts of the world, including Mexico. It leads it to be very exciting. This also could mean maybe we see someone who was more recently released from WWE onto the roster as well. But the MLW draft is a thing, and it's going to be happening later this summer. We also got news, too, that MLW is going to be doing some more live events. Of course, July 10th is where they're going to have their first event in Philadelphia, but also announced they are going to be having an event on September 11th in Dallas, Texas, and another one in November in Chicago. So this is also MLW gearing back up on their live event circuit, which I think is going to be awesome. Something else that happened, we had Richard Holiday defending the Caribbean Championship, just kind of a squash match, but what happened afterward is more interesting. Gino Medina turned up as Richard Holiday was being interviewed by Alicia too, and pretty much they were reigniting this rivalry, as Gino said, I didn't get fired, I quit, bitch. regarding their dynamic dynasty, which is still, where this is coming from. But, I mean, he hit a hard DDT on Holiday into the floor. So that just did not look well at all. So it does seem we're going to see a continuance of this program between Gino Medina and Richard Holiday, and I'm all for it. The main event this week was a rematch for the MLW Middleweight Championship, Lio Rush facing Myron Reed, and this match was awesome. I mean, you could tell that both men, just gave it their all. It was very heated with some trash talk at the beginning of the match. And really, both of them, these high-flying moves, Myron Reed, too, was able to have some great timing with some dives outside of the ring and started to really wear down the champion. However, a Spanish fly attempt from Lio Rush that landed very, very well. But when he hit the final hour, Myron Reed did kick out. So that was a sign of things to come. And Myron Reed hit the cap and crunch, followed by the no cap splash, to reclaim the middleweight championship. So Lio Rush now came from Lio Rush 2 belts to Lio Rush no belts. So not a good week for Lio Rush. But really what people are talking about is the ending of MLW, where we finally got to know who El Jefe is. Yeah. And as speculated, as somewhat guessed, and as the rumors kind of swirled around, there is a tie to Lucha Underground, because El Jefe is none other than Dario Cueto. And, I mean, it's just boom, what? Yeah. I mean, I think we just thought the theory and idea was so far-fetched that it couldn't be. But oh yes, it is. So Azteca Underground is somewhat of the relaunch of Lucha Underground. Possibly, we still don't know. We did get to see a hooded Selena De La Renta, and later on we do find out that Selena's no longer under contract with MLW. So who knows what the future holds for her, if we're going to see her at a different promotion or in a different role, or continuing on the independent scene. But it does seem like Selena is out and Dario Cueto is in. He did get a phone call towards the end of the reveal about July 10th saying he will be there in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and reveal the big master plan for Azteca Underground. So it has been confirmed. El Jefe is Dario Cueto, and possibly we see the resurgence of Lucha Underground. I just need to get your guys' thoughts on this real quick, because we had talked about it. Everyone talked about it, and I just don't know what to think.
You skipped over one other really exciting thing about that segment. He mentioned specifically he's building a new temple.
No.
So,
and he still has
which
Red
also.
Bull.
Yeah, he has the Red Bull. He has the name plaque on his desk that says, "I'm kind of a big deal still." So, I mean,
yeah.
it was obvious without them ever using his name, although they confirmed in press later that it is Dario Cueto. But the interesting thing for me is, where does this fall with, if we are bringing him in as the Lucha Underground character, which we totally seem to be.
Yeah.
He was dead last time we saw him.
Oh, yeah. I kind of forgot about that.
Storyline continuity, But if anyone's going to bring anybody back from the dead, it's them.
It happens.
They brought back several characters from the dead, which is why I'm super excited about if they're bringing him in, what they're doing. And maybe that's why it's Azteca Underground now. So much that they can do with that.
Yeah, we've gotten into conversations about, can they even use a Lucha Underground because of copyright and ownership and all of that. So being able to tweak the name, and it seems like it is it's a new temple. Hopefully there's going to be elements of Lucha Underground that we are familiar with, but maybe some new spins if it's under the umbrella of MLW. So. It's a new world out there, and to have this ability to bring back life to Lucha Underground. Now, I hate to bring up this comparison because I don't want to jinx anything.
Oh,
but
no.
There, think about when another hardcore entity got revived by another company. And how successful
by a really big company,
and or therefore not very successful it was. And I'm talking about ECW. However, I have faith that MLW has more of an understanding of what made Lucha Underground popular and successful, and can add, allow it to have the elements that it used to, but also learning from history and being able to build upon the things that maybe weren't as successful.
So I have a little bit of a reason why this to me is very different. And in charge of that really large promotion, initials VKM, did an interview about what those extreme fans expected out of a show, and he pointed out that it is an unsustainable model what they were expecting, because they wanted a car crash every week until car crash wasn't enough. So then you needed a bus and a train and so on like that. That's an unsustainable model. So what he was trying to do, what he allegedly was trying to do, was make a more accessible thing that would be more long term, and that meant that fans of what was happening and what made the original show so special couldn't be interested in it because they were trying to make it more accessible to everybody and sustainable in a long-term thing. That is not something, so he knew what made the product successful and did other things because he had reasons.
Yeah.
More or
Very
less.
true.
I don't think that is how they're going, if they're going to tap into the popularity of of a Lucha Underground. I don't think the approach they're going to take. I don't think they're going to look at it and go, how can we make this the same but us? I think they're going to be more. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, and if anything, we've heard through, of course, Masks, Mats, and Mayhem has had outstanding interviews with Conan and even Vampiro, and just learning from history, being able to learn, what was successful, what wasn't. Now, too, with more flexibility, being under more of a wrestling promotion and not a network, I feel like there's so much now that they'll be able to do that they couldn't do before. So I'm very, very optimistic, and the fact that they've had this time to be able to reflect and being able to look at it and also just see the fan response to it. And I think fans will flock to it because it is a very, very different product than what you see out there anywhere else. So very, very exciting. MLW making big moves. We won't have any new episodes of MLW through now to July 10th. So it does give you time to catch up. Of course, MLW has all of their episodes on YouTube, and of course, MLW Underground is available as well if you want to see some of that history. But this summer, MLW is going to be making some big moves, and I'm very, very excited for it. Yes. And I think we'll all be very anxious to see what happens when MLW returns on July 10th.
And don't think that there's not going to be MLW news between now and then.
No.
They have been very aggressive, so we will continue.
Yes, if anything, I think the draft will be happening between now and through July. So just being able to know who they bring on board through this draft, I think that's already a hot topic. Where other locations they're going to be going and maybe setting up for the future for live events, that's going to be a hot topic. There's going to be news absolutely coming out of
the possibility of a second show. I don't know if we mentioned that rumor or not yet, but that's another one.
We have not. And that's something more, on the rumor side. MLW hadn't mentioned anything about that during this week's episode, but it's very possible. They're growing their roster. Also, they have the TV deal with Vice now. They're still being featured on YouTube and being in sports. MLW is growing. Again, MLW is making money moves. So.
Yeah.
keep an eye out for them.
Yeah, they're looking to be a national brand like Federation Wrestling.
Mm-hmm. True. Up next, Brendan, with our Mass Republic information of the week.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, if you guys are into this cross section of other fandoms like comic books or Star Wars and Lucha Libre, then you probably already follow Urban Aztec. But he got to release some images of Star Wars things that he did with his own unique style for May the 4th. And there was a just absolutely glorious Boba Fett image, figure that he did. Just, I mean, I need to win the lottery so that I can buy more of his stuff. But, it looks really good. He's converted all of that armor into more of a Mayan style armor, but with Jesse's signature color, so more bright reds and neons and all. It's just fantastic. Teased with a Darth Vader helmet that he repainted, and he said, that might be part of the Star Wars, something like that might be part of the Star Wars line at some point, probably once a month or so. Check out Urban Aztec on social medias. He's on all of them. He is of Lucha Libre and the artistic culture. So I mean, we're going there. And then Boss Fight Studios is doing pre-sales for the mini mask that we talked about during Expo Lucha Virtual. They are, I want to say, about 2 inches or so, and they have these nice little display stands, and they've got about 12 different styles. And just to take more money out of my pockets, thank you, Eric, they're blind boxes. So you have to gamble a little bit to get all the ones you want. Every luchador in there has 2 styles, so you can pre-order a display box of blind boxes and have your best chance of getting all of them, and you can do that on Boss Fight's set right now. But I don't believe the pre-orders are going to be lasting a lot longer, so definitely hurry up and order, and then I'll be trading. So if you guys want to get extras and you want to start trading, I'll totally go swapsies with a bunch of people. That's our Mass Republic update, though.
Thank you, Brendan. Up next, we have This Week in NXT. And, it was a mixed bag. This week was definitely a week where we had a lot of stipulation matches. The first off, opening match was a Falls Count Anywhere match between Leon Ruff and Isaiah Swerve Scott. This one, really was a lot of heat and history between these two gentlemen going back and forth for quite some time. And it was a Falls Count Anywhere, so it means no DQ. So that's going to play a role into the end. But some really cool moments was Leon Ruff hit a crucifix bomb from the top rope and also a poison rana off the apron. There was also some awesome action outside of the ring. That was outside of the ring. But then we had Isaiah Swerve Scott with a frog splash and a springboard cutter for Leon Ruff, as far as very, very close, almost 3 counts. But a lot of back and forth throughout the match. What ended up being the stinging point of the end was AJ Francis appeared. And for those of you who may not know, he is one of the hosts of the A&E show, WWE's Most Wanted Treasures. So many people on social media were like, what is the guy from WWE's Most Wanted Treasures doing? He is a wrestler in training, and he came out to help Isaiah Swerve Scott, who did get the win due to the distraction. and some other NXT superstars came out, and it seems like Isaiah now has his own faction. So as much as I thought that maybe this would be the end of the program between Leon Ruff and Isaiah Swerve Scott, it may not be, but it also is setting up Swerve for his own faction, which I think is a great utilization of talent, especially up and coming and younger talent on the NXT roster. We did get some setup for next week as far as some upcoming matches. First we had Legado de Fantasma coming out, touting their victory over MSK and Kushida from the week before. And, Kushida came in via video, and did accept Santos Escobar's challenge rematch for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. However, it's going to be a 2 out of 3 falls match. So yeah, it's going to set a very definitive tone, which also means it could be anything. It's just going to be crazy. But we are going to have the NXT Cruiserweight Championship rematch next week, Kushida versus Santos Escobar in a 2 out of 3 falls match. We also had a kind of a side-by-side video interview slash talk trash moment between Raquel Gonzalez and Mercedes Martinez. And you know, pretty much, and I understand this completely. Mercedes Martinez is like, you're cookie cutter. You would not be here if it wasn't for me. You know, they're trying to make you into me. And Raquel's like, okay, well that's good because like you set the bar low. Like, what did you do? I did it better. So like, that was some just very subtle but very good promo work between the two, and it did set up a match next week. We are going to have Raquel Gonzalez versus Mercedes Martinez. Yes. So I'm very, very excited about that, and already next week is shaping up to be a really good show. But the main event, we had the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship up for contention in a street fight. So Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon versus Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Again, it was a street fight, so anything goes. So there was trash cans and fire extinguishers and chairs all over the place. And this one came out where in the end, Candice LeRae used at least that's where they were toting, William Regal's brass knuckles that apparently Johnny Gargano had stolen from his office earlier, to hit, Shotzi with. And then she landed the Wicked Stepsister on a chair for the win. So we do have new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions in Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. I'm happy with this because this back and forth between them has gone on for too long. So eventually, you know, I mean, it is going to go on for a little bit longer now because you're going to have a rematch and all of that. But I also do think it was well earned, a really fun match. And I know, as Brendan alluded to earlier, as far as some of the heat that Chris Jericho had received this week regarding his fall, you know, lots of people had comments about Shotzi's gif as far as someone falling into a bed. But I'll tell you this. Shotzi can say that. Shotzi is especially one of the few women in professional wrestling. I tell it all the time. She wrestles with reckless abandonment. You know,
there's a reason why she's called Ballsy.
Yes.
In the Indies.
Yes.
That's a song about being ballsy. So.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, for whatever reason, if people are giving heat to Shotzi, like, it'd be something if, you know, someone else maybe would have given, you know, crap to Chris Jericho. But Shotzi has every single right because she doesn't half-ass, you know, stuff. She did not half-ass it in this match as well. So, give it to him. Give it to him, Shotzi. Tell him.
It was the most gentle nudge of a burn or whatever you want to call it as it was. Because honestly, all she did was that's it.
Yeah. But of course you have those AEW loyalists that will defend them to, you know, that, but still when you think about it, if anyone can give or back or joke about it, it's Shotzi Blackheart. So, but that was this week in NXT. Next week is setting up to be a banger. So, I mean, like, yes, keep your eyes on for next week. You have the Cruiserweight Championship being defended in a 2 out of 3 falls match, and then the Women's Championship defended in what's going to be I just feel it. It's going to be an intense match. Mercedes Martinez versus Raquel Gonzalez. So stay tuned for that.
There's no way that's not going to be amazing. I'm already figuring. So I'm going to sleep in your backyard. I'm going to come down for Cinco de Psycho, sleep in your backyard, stay for NXT because I don't have cable TV. And then I'm going to fly back real fast.
Yes. I mean, we did also, real quick, we did have a Frankie Monet appearance, as always. And her little dog did have a little incident in Shotzi's tank. So they're continuously, the humor in NXT is very strange. We also did have Karrion Kross come out to do a promo in which he did get confronted by Finn Balor. Also, not even Roderick Strong. Kyle O'Reilly came out, and then someone else came out. Oh my gosh, Bruiserweight.
Pete Dunne.
Wow.
Pete Dunne, yes.
Pete Dunne, yeah.
Pete Dunne came out, yeah. So nothing's been definitive set as far as who Karrion Kross is going to be facing next. We do know he's going to be facing Austin Theory, and that's just because Austin Theory just has some bad luck and poor choice of words, because he's a child. But so if y'all want to see a dead body next week too, watch.
Oh man,
watch Karrion Kross face Austin Theory.
Now that you've said it, I can only think about Pete Dunne versus Karrion Kross. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, they are building up. You have a lot of contenders in the NXT Championship realm, but they haven't set up yet who's going to be the next one. So, again, just wait and see. Up next, we have This Week in Lucha Libre History with Dusty. And Dusty's also going to explain kind of a change in the format that we are now implementing with This Week in Lucha Libre History. So, Dusty, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, well, there's a finite amount of dates in Lucha Libre history that we can cover, and we've split them 3 ways, and so for at least the short term going forward, we're going to change it to covering one event. All 3 of us will discuss it. It'll help spread things out. There may be some things we talked about over the last year and the coming year, but it'll be a little different with the group conversation, but hopefully we'll cover a lot of different things. But I'll do my regular spiel. It's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera for information, birth dates, anniversaries, matches of the day, amazing videos, and even more. And it's all about Lucha Libre, and it's all free at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And this week, we chose May the 4th, 2002, when Martha Villalobos won the Lucha Libre AAA Reina de Reyes Championship for the first time in her career after beating Lady Apache and Reynosa. But after we chose this, we all discovered separately. I looked, I know Miranda looked, Brendan looked. We couldn't find the match. It happened at a house show in Reynosa. Yeah. But we could find the tournament from earlier in the year when Esther Moreno defeated Lady Apache, Martha Villalobos, and Miss Janeth in a 4-way match in the tournament final from February the 23rd. Apparently at some point, she lost the title to Lady Apache, and then later on, Lady Apache lost the title to Martha Villalobos at a house show in Reynosa. And then the title was vacated the next year and was won by Martha Villalobos. So I'm not sure why it was vacated, but yeah, interesting. That's what I discovered this week, researching the match.
But we did, so we did, the reason we all discovered that tournament was linked to us also in This Week in Lucha Libre. Mm-hmm. So we did, I watched the tournament, and even though, as Dusty mentioned, they brought all 4 out, I found the tournament format itself to be interesting, because you started with 15 ladies doing an elimination, over the top elimination to get to the last four, and it wasn't over the. Oh well, I don't.
No, I think it was.
I don't remember the elimination rules.
Was it?
I think
Oh
it
no,
was.
and then to the last four, it was more traditional, like
then it was just like a fatal four-way.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
They when we got to the last four, they announced who the four were. They stopped the match. They restarted it with entrances. That was part of what I found very interesting about it. So like there was no entrances. I was furiously writing down names of people to try and remember. The Crazy Rabbit, I think, was one of the. I don't remember her actual name, and I mean, but yeah, they would.
Yeah.
And then we got the final four, and they did introductions, and everything felt less frantic. But that I found that to be interesting. To what we were talking about earlier with the Rey de Reyes tournament just being weird with everybody getting in there. I found this was a refreshing way of doing that. Have everybody start in there. Some people get eliminated, and then you build up to like a final four, final six, however you want to do it. So I thought that part was interesting. I don't know, but Miranda, what do you recall from the match that was interesting, or the history of this?
I think it was the like you said, the format. Like I was a little confused as to what was going on until I figured out that you had it was over the top rope and then the final 4. As far as that, it did help set up as far as, Martha eventually winning the title. I know she had a pretty lengthy reign. In the research I did, it's listed as a 295-day reign before she vacated it. So that's a pretty long reign for someone. I mean, it was her second, or this was the first of her 2, reigns as in Reina de Reyes. And so someone too, I mean, coming from a line of wrestlers, she was the daughter of Panchito Villalobos, and then also the sister of Johnny and Bobby Villalobos. So, long history too within CMLL and multi-time women's champion in other organizations. So, I mean, it made sense to me as far as her being in the history of Reina de Reyes, though she's not as talked about as some of the other champions as much. But I did think how that match that we did see helped set up, her eventual reign just later on. Really, it was a few months later because the belt itself, I think that was February of 2002, and she won the belt in May. So, not long afterwards, that match, and she won. So it all made sense to me looking at it from that perspective, but I had to get all those facts for it to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was confusing.
Yes. It was, but, again, too, I think it's knowing in that history of Reina de Reyes and where it is now, also having Fabi Apache, in the title picture again, I think, like I said, helps reestablish that championship after we haven't seen it, defended in quite some time. So it totally makes sense to me now. And I think it was a good choice to have Fabi. I don't maybe see her having a long reign necessarily, but I would like them to keep it within AAA and have it, on television or on events more frequently.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons we chose this, because we're excited about the Reina de Reyes match that we saw and the future of the division in AAA. So we wanted to look a little bit at the history here. And I love that you pointed out that it's the Villalobos is one of the wrestling dynasties. The Apaches are a wrestling dynasty.
Yeah.
There's blood that flows through this. Yeah.
Well, that was this week in Lucha Libre history, which you could find at luchacentral.com. But Brendan, tell our listeners what else they could find at luchacentral.com.
All right. So if you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's really, really time to do it. luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by the top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And never, ever, ever going to get tired of mentioning this. It's free. Best price to pay for anything.
Free.
LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Oh, Brendan, while you're at it, do we have any CMLL news?
Just a real quick thing here. Yes. So the lineup for Copa Dinastia has been announced. That is for their next pay-per-view for May 28th. We don't know what the pairings on this are. Is going a tournament that's going to take up the majority of the pay-per-view. Announced are Atlantis Jr., Volador Jr. and Flyer, Ultimo Guerrero and Gran Guerrero, Sanson and Cuatrero, Rey Kamata and Espirita Negra, Las Gamilo Diablos, who were very recently announced, so we haven't talked about them much yet, but they look to be exciting young new tag team. Felino and Felino Jr. and Blue Panther Jr. and Black Panther. So kind of your standard array of the CMLL tag team division, and they're going to do some tournament matches, so it should be good times. That's again May 28th on Ticketmaster Mexico. So now is the time to buy it because it's going to be cheap. And there's no video on demand option. So if you are even remotely interested, you're probably going to have to watch it as it happens. That's our CML update for this week, though.
Now, this is usually the part where we talk about something else, or we've usually put WWE more towards the beginning, but we put it more towards the end of the show because, as we've already talked about this week, there was so much that was happening with some other promotions that we just could not wait to get to them. But we do have your WWE news on SmackDown and Raw with Dusty.
Yeah, well, there's really not any SmackDown news, unfortunately, this week. But Raw, we had a couple of things. First up, we had Lucha House Party getting a win over the former Hurt Business tag team. This was largely, however, to show that Cedric and Shelton have fallen as a tag team since losing the Hurt Business, and they used Lucha House Party as the stick to show how separated they are from their championship past. Not to my liking, but, I'll take what I can get. Lucha House Party looked great. Grand Metalik got the pin, which was nice. He should be getting some of those pins. I just wish it had a better story. Hopefully we'll see more of Lucha House Party rather than them just being the impetus for Cedric to break up with Shelton because they, lost to Lucha House Party. Not my thing. But next up, we had Angel Garza, and he and Drew Gulak, this was interesting. He and Drew Gulak were backstage. I've been a big fan of Gulak for years now. This pairing is exciting, but things just got weird. Backstage before the match, Drew accused Angel of not being a real ladies' man as he carried around a rose, and Garza threatened to shove the rose up Drew's ass. Then we got the match.
Guess what?
Yes. Guess what? Garza started out the match by ripping off his pants, so you immediately know this is serious business. Pants are off. The match went fast, ended with Angel hitting a wing clipper on Drew, but then things just took a John Waters turn. Garza took the rose that he had with him, shoved it down Gulak's trunks, and then gave him a running punt kick right up the ass. I didn't mistake that. He kicked the rose right up his ass. It was weird.
It was on television, everyone. It was on national television.
It was really
This is the
strange.
WWE. Send all of your letters to the WWE.
Man, Peacock's going to have some time having to edit that out.
Hulu already did. It wasn't on the Hulu version of Raw. So
Yeah, I completely missed it. It's not on the YouTube version either.
Yeah, it was weird. The other big WWE news this week, Daniel Bryan's contract has ended. Multiple sources have stated that Daniel Bryan's contract with WWE quietly ended last week following his career versus title match with Roman Reigns. And he's mentioned before that he really, really wants to wrestle in Mexico. And he has said that he might only be willing to sign a new contract with WWE if they would give him some freedom to wrestle other places. So this might be the time we get the chance to see him in Mexico. Those of us that watched the Cruiserweight Classic, he talked a lot about Blue Panther and how that was his dream match. And so I would love to see him. And if Federacion's really got a lot of money, they could put together a trios team now of Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, and Samoa Joe. Ring of Honor.
Oh my God. No.
Oh, come on.
That is not
I mean, probably not. I mean,
but
I like you're thinking. Just you shoot for the stars, you shoot for the moon. It's shots you don't take. Yes.
I think a better use of Daniel Bryan would be to put him on that Matt Taven team at the pay-per-view they're doing. But
talk about
that's
kind of draw eyes too,
right?
Draw a lot of eyes and a lot of dollars to the product. Like people would be so excited to see Daniel Bryan in Mexico.
Yeah, but there are so many dream matchups you can think of when you talk about Daniel Bryan being in Mexico. I know Daniel Bryan says his dream matchup is Blue Panther, which is great because he is a master of the mat wrestling. Mm-hmm. But you've got, so many of the Legends guys. You could put him in there with Solar and have a show. You could put, Negro Navarro's still wrestling.
Yes. That would be incredible. That's the match I want. There's so much promise, and even if he does sign, like I say, he's said that he's not really willing to sign again unless he can wrestle other places. He wants to have that unique contract. So hopefully somebody like Daniel Bryan, he's got about enough star power to do it, and he's one of the few that could, and he's a top level guy, but he's not one of the top guys right now, and so it'd be perfect. It's not like Seth Rollins, he's never going to get to go wrestle in Mexico, right. But maybe Daniel Bryan will get the chance. It's all happening. I do want to point out that one of the other things he talked about is that he is hurt. Mm-hmm. He's had a long career with a number of injuries, and he says that it actually hurts him when his daughter sits on his shoulders. So he wants to slow down, period. So he will. The reason he wants to do these special matches is because he wants to cross things off of his checklist before he hangs up the boots.
Yeah, especially.
And I support him in that notion.
Yeah, especially since this was, this second run wasn't supposed to happen. And so I'm sure there's a lot of this reflection of, having this second opportunity and, knowing that he won't be doing this much longer, but also knowing there was a time where he didn't think he'd ever do it again. So I feel like there's a lot more conviction of wanting to get these matches or wanting to go and wrestle these places more. And always knowing that if he wanted to come back to do a final match at the WWE, he could do that. He could really do that.
Yeah.
Especially because even, it's not like he's going off to, AEW. I think for him in particular, there are certain people and places he just wants to go and wrestle.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like if he ever were to circle back to the WWE, he would. And they would bring him back with open arms, and, they would be able to make something work.
I agree, yeah, and he's one of the few people that I feel like has the ability to do that could leave, do these things he wants to do, come back to WWE and say, I'd like to finish it up here, and they would be so excited to have him. And allegedly he's Vince's favorite wrestler, so, it would be interesting to see, how that works for their dynamic going forward. A lot of interesting things happening around Daniel Bryan right now, so he's definitely somebody to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I look forward to
All right. Up next, Brendan, you have some brief Ring of Honor news, really this week in Ring of Honor in particular.
So we had another fun episode of Ring of Honor Wrestling this week for Lucha fans. We had the inevitable, we alluded to this earlier, we had Bandito and Flamita going at it. This is so early, the earlier we were talking about Rey Horus and Bandito being part of it, and then Flamita having another match with Rey Horus. This one was Bandito and Flamita, and it's everything you would expect from two guys that were in a tag team for years, just going at it. Like, it didn't have the hype in the build. There was nobody that got super kicked through a mirror, but it's still all the passion and all of the emotion of two guys that have known each other for years, really just having a break in the relationship, and it's must-see television. Like, it's up for free on ROH's channel through this week, so by the time you hear this, you'll only have like a day to watch it if you haven't gone to
watch it. Yes. Like, you just have to watch it. For me, it's one of those things that I feel bad that there weren't live fans around, because they did everything. They hopped on the barricade, they had some outstanding moves and speed and just like intricacies that are just insane. Like, it just kind of blew me away. And you're right, Brendan. It's all those things that, because they were tag partners for so long, they could read each other so well. And I think that translated so well in the match. Yeah. And why they took it literally all over, in and out of the ring.
Yeah, it really explains a lot when you remember these are guys that have known each other forever, and they broke into America together, and all of this. It just adds layers to what you saw. But the action was amazing, and it started at the bell. Like, there wasn't a code of honor, there wasn't a slow build-up, there was no headlocks or anything. It just went straight to fast-paced, I'm going to fly at you as fast as I can, wrestling, and we got like 15 minutes of it. It was pretty incredible.
Good.
Also, on the show, I just want to point out Tony Deppen, who represents Violence
Unlimited.
I can't remember. It's Unlimited on this brand.
Yeah.
Too many
violent factions, you guys. We're putting a cap on it. No more violent named factions. We're done. We're cutting you off. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
But they've been doing this kind of three-way build now with LFI, the Foundation, and Violence Unlimited. So we're clearly building to a three-way faction battle at some point. So Tony Deppen managed to win the TV title off of Tracy Williams from the Foundation, kind of evening out the amount of singles titles between all of them, so none of them really has extra bragging rights. The Foundation can't really go on about purifying things. LFI can't say they own the division. So that not Lucha, but important for building future stories. So I figured I would mention it. They build up this LFI feud, Violence, and the Foundation. But that's ROH this week. It was a really fun episode.
go watch the Flamita Bandito match. You
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Just watch
Do
it.
it. Do yourself a favor.
Do it. That's my 2 cents in there. Our last topic for this week's episode, as always, is Impact Wrestling. We didn't have a lot of Lucha Libre action this week. Again, we did talk about Deonna Purrazzo making an appearance at Rey de Reyes. That isn't really acknowledged this week on Impact. But c'est la vie. But some news from Impact that you may want to know. First off, they did announce their next 3 events happening. They're going to have 2, I believe, Impact Plus events, one in May and one in June, and then Slammiversary. So Under Siege is happening next week, May 15th, and then Against All Odds is going to be June 12th. They did announce the actual date for Slammiversary, and that is going to be Saturday, July 17th from Nashville. Also an important note that it is going to be a few days after some 90-day no-compete clauses are set to expire.
Yeah.
So, again, the return of that for Slammiversary, which is still very intriguing. Also, they've promoted possibly, not only some former WWE talent, but New Japan talent as well, because that partnership is still going fairly strong. That does leave a lot of questions as to who we're going to see at Slammiversary. I think it's going to, draw some eyes to their product. So, very, very interested in seeing what happens, but they have released the schedule, for their next 3 events. As far as this week on Impact, some interesting points and some things that have been set for Under Siege happening next week. Starting off with the 6-way number 1 contenders match. The 6 competitors have been announced and established, and these are all through a series of preliminary matches that they went through in order to qualifying matches. We have Chris Sabin versus Chris Bay versus Sami Callihan versus Matt Cardona versus Trey Miguel versus Moose, all to determine the number 1 contender for the Impact World Championship. That means the winner of this will be facing Kenny Omega. They haven't announced when, but I could see it happening at Slammiversary. So 6 very formidable competitors, very different competitors, but it makes me very excited to see what this match will do. But for Lucha Libre fans, there's been some match announcements for Under Siege that were just announced tonight. First off, we are going to see Black Taurus versus Brian Myers as a match. And then also Willie Mack is going to be facing W. Morrissey, as many people remember him as Big Cass. That's been set up for Under Siege as well. That's a match to watch. I was watching Impact on Twitch, and they showed some clips of Willie Mack when he faced the North at Hard to Kill last January, and it was just one of those things like Willie Mack just does tremendous work in the ring, and he can always surprise you. And, it was one of my favorite matches from Hard to Kill. So I think that this is going to be a great match for W. Morrissey as far as, I think he's going to have a really good partner in this, and this could really help people remember kind of his wrestling ability. And Willie Mack, this will be a challenge for him. I hope to see him in a long-term program again. Right now, he's not really competing for any title. So, he's kind of in, not limbo, but he's still, not in a stable program either. So, I hope this is not one and done. I actually hope to see them wrestle more, because I think Willie Mack, when he does wrestle, brings out the best of whoever's on the other side of him. So I think that that's very possible in this match. But that's it for this week's Impact Wrestling news. And that actually leads us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Don't forget to go to luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And go ahead and follow Lucha Central on social media, at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at LuchaCentral.com on Twitter. You got to check out the YouTube page. Lots of amazing matches and content, interviews, and just content and videos you can't find anywhere else on the Lucha Central YouTube page. While you're at it, go ahead and follow us on social media. Dusty, can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy, and I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am on all of the platforms. I'm 3 Guy, that's the number 321. T-shirt guy is all spelled out. I'm on the Instagram. I'm on Facebook as 321 T-shirt guy. And I am on Twitter, which is like I'm happening right now in real time. So also I'm the inbox for Miranda on Twitter because she's not cool and doesn't have one.
No, you can't pay me enough to be on Twitter. Nah, thank you. No, thank you. So yes, go ahead and follow at 321 T-shirt guy on Twitter. If you have any messages to send me, just send them to Brendan. As well as if you are a Lucha Libre promotion, wrestler, promoter, make sure that you send your matches to Brendan, and you may be featured on a future edition of the Indie Roundup. We love to promote independent wrestling here on the show, so send us your matches. We'd love to watch them. We'd love to hype them up. Me, myself, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the #Miranda, hashtag spelled out, on Facebook and Instagram, no Twitter. And make sure you stay tuned to luchacentral.com. Make sure you follow us on social media. There's lots of great tidbits that we are always sharing, pieces of news that we find and identify, especially Brendan and Dusty. They get the scoop on things, and I just read it, which, again, you guys can all do if you follow us on social media. Make sure you do that. I will share information on independent wrestling shows that I'm either a part of or know of. So we all bring something to the table. Again, a big thank you for listening. If you are listening to this podcast through your favorite podcast streaming platform like Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Subscribe and get notifications every time a new episode drops. Give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts on the show. We're happy to take feedback. Let you know what you think of what we talk about, maybe things that we should talk about. Let us know. Again, a big thank you for listening. We're so happy that you were joining us this week, and we'll be back next week. Don't you worry. Things are only heating up in the world of Lucha Libre, and we are going to be here to report it to you. So for Brendan Barr and Dusty Murphy, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you very much, and we will be back next week.
Respetable público, lucharán a 2 de 3 caídas sin límite de tiempo.